Hi everybody, I'm Tony Wilson, here with my good friend and co-host Adrian Wright, and this is
The Supernatural and Beyond.
Okay, before we get started, I want to reference a couple of books which we have been taking from this series. The Unseen Realm by Dr. Michael Heiser, and the second book is Revising Mount Hermon. This is another book by Dr. Michael Heiser. I suggest that you look him up, get some of his YouTube videos, and Google him because he's an invaluable resource. So follow that, and then you'll better understand where we are coming from in this particular series. So one of the things that I got out of these two books was the dividing of the nations. For those of you who are not familiar with the Tower of Babel story, it's one of the more interesting where mankind was joined together, one common language, and being influenced by the evil celestial beings to build a tower to Babel to go into heaven to actually wage war with the creator of heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Dumb idea, but hey, you know. So what basically wound up happening is that God said, hey, nothing we can do to stop them from creating what they can imagine.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to confuse the languages so that they won't be able to communicate with each other so openly.
Yeah.
But what that wound up doing was it divided the nations into different sections.
People groups, races,
The
languages, all of it.
The whole 10 yards. And because man was not able to communicate and be on one accord, they were not going to be able to do things in harmony. Just look around the world today. Just because certain people can't understand other languages, you know, we have confusion and doubt in those areas of trying to get things together. So with the confusion of the languages came the division of mankind into basically 70 nations, and that gave room for all the other Elohim, the other gods, to have certain territorial, what's the best way to describe it? Certain territorial dominion.
Okay.
That's a good way to have.
Yeah.
Territorial dominions. That's why we have all of these different religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and so forth and so on. However, with the division of these nations, different Elohim took over, but the Creator took one for himself. And that is the nation of Israel.
Yes.
Through Abraham.
Yes, through Abraham. And I love how you bring up Abraham and the Tower of Babel because it was all around the same time.
Yes.
One of my favorite research books for this series is the book of Jasher. Like it's a Hebrew text. It's really in depth in history. It's kind of like double the size of the book of Genesis. But it really goes into depth on the Tower of Babel, and it's one of the best sources that I found for the Tower of Babel. I almost said the Table of Babel.
The Table of Babel.
But one way to understand this is the Tower of Babel in the book of Jasher says it took 3 days to walk the diameter from one side to the other side.
Yes.
And it was this huge, huge thing that they were building. And there were people in that group that were misinformed, and they were actually rebellious against God. And they wanted to build the Tower of Babel into the heavens so they could attack God. And he let them get so far before he destroyed the whole thing. But the best reference was in Jasher that I found. And it ties into exactly what it says in the Bible. It just goes into a lot more depth about what happened. But what's interesting was that that's where God formed his people group. After he split the languages, after he split the cultures, he was looking at one man. And he found one man that he approved of, Abraham, the Hebrew. And what had happened was Abraham came from a culture of idol worship, idolatry.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that.
And so Abraham in the book of Jasher, he actually goes into one of those houses where they worship these pagan gods, these idols, and he destroys them.
Right.
And this was an offense punishable by death. And they came to Abraham, the Hebrew, and they said, Abraham, what happened to our house of gods? and he said, oh, this God was mad at the other gods, and he destroyed the whole house, and he burned it down. And they were like, Abraham is just an idol. And he's like, how do you know? You worship these things like they're a being.
Exactly.
I saw it happen. What do you not believe about it?
Yeah, what's not to believe? Exactly.
And God decided, hey, this man, Abraham, hates these false gods. He wants to know the Creator. He wants to know me. So God made those promises to Abraham and made Abraham the Hebrew and gave him the Hebrew language.
Yes, that's. I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to circle, well, not circle back, but I want to kind of skip ahead. Well, let me back up again. The Tower of Babel,
Yes.
with the dividing of the nations, each of these celestial beings, the fallen angels, were given certain territorial responsibilities.
I call them territorial spirits.
Territorial
But yes,
Yes, exactly.
entities or whatever you want to call them.
Whatever you want to call them. Now, if we go to skip ahead to the Exodus, when Moshe, or Moses, depending on which language you're speaking, he went before Pharaoh, and as most of you know, he took his staff, threw it down on the ground. But the magicians in Egypt took their staff and threw it down, and all of those staff turned into snakes.
Right.
However, Moshe's staff ate
Yes.
ate the other snakes.
I love it. I love it.
It was great. Here's
Yeah.
another example of the supernatural taking place. Here's a man of God, or should I say the creator of the heavens and the earth, and the other gods that were very prevalent in Egypt, Mesopotamia, also in
Cush.
Babylon,
Yep.
and all of these other places. What happened there was one of the battle of the gods, where the creator said, look, I'm the guy. I created everything that's here, and I'm going to show you. So each and every one of the plagues, there were 9 plagues that befell Egypt.
Yes.
Each and every one of those represented a god, one of the fallen entities.
Wow.
And then they were all defeated, showing the entire world at that time. Because Egypt at that time was a superpower.
Yeah.
And so
World power.
A world power, yeah.
Yeah. It was a kingdom.
So
of all the-
wherever Egypt did, the world wanted to do.
Right.
So the creator of the heavens and the earth said, hey, look, I'm the one that created all of this. You should be following me and my guys here. We're going to show you how this world should be lived out, not the false information that's been given to you.
Yeah. And the thing is the enemy, he's out there and he perverts what it was. Like you just mentioned with Moses, how he went and he confronted Egypt. He confronted the gods of Egypt. He confronted and he tore them down because he had Elohim backing him up. And so, the magicians in the world system and the evil world empire, right? The Egyptians were like an evil world empire. And they were like, hey, we got these gods, we got these powers. And then one came along that was backed by Elohim, the mighty God, almighty God, right? And it shows that perversion because they had power.
Oh,
they had
definitely
this
had
magic spells.
Still have it today.
Yeah, still have it today. But what was great is that the people of God had more power. Moses had more power, and his staff, when he threw it down, did eat those other staffs up. And that's what I love about it. And that's what I love about our God, is he's always looking for the one that's going to stand up to the enemy. So going forward into this end time generation and what's coming in the end of the world times is like the people of God have got to stand up and stand against these evil world empires and stand against this corruption and stand against this pollution. And we just got to go back to bringing the world back from that division system to unity. That's what I think.
Well, I agree with you on that point. One of the things that happens when Yeshua walked the face of the earth,
Yes.
he did all of these things. He cast out demons. He turned water to wine. He walked on water. I mean,
Right.
if this isn't the supernatural power
Right.
of the creator of the heavens and earth, I don't know what is.
Right, I agree with you totally.
Back
So
to the
that's what I
beginning.
love.
Yeah, I love that by myself.
Back to the beginning, back to just bringing us back to the Creator and building that relationship. So here at the Supernatural and Beyond, we want to get a little bit of feedback from our viewers, from our followers, and we just want you guys to leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you know about the Tower of Babel and the dividing of the nations, the dividing of the people groups, and what you think about it all coming together now, too, after the Messiah has come and came to restore all people groups back to the Father that believe in the Messiah. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content, and we'll see you next time at the Supernatural and Beyond.